Guys and dolls, it is finally here. It's game day. We're going to be talking all about it. Aaron Rodgers in bubble wrap, most likely today on the shelf, but there is Packers football. We are simulcast through YouTube Live, Facebook Live, to our patrons through Get Vocal, and we've also brought in Instagram as well. So if you're following me all over the interwebs, you're going to get a lot of notifications right now. But we are happy to have our new Patreon live show through Get Vocal. We're going to be sharing at least the preseason here with our Game Day Live. We've got some talk to do. Packers have work to do on offense. Texans are in town, have been in town. There's been some mixed reviews about the practices, the tempo of this team. We're going to talk about things that I'm looking for today. And if you are a patron, feel free to jump in and get vocal. And I will go ahead and let me make sure. And I will go ahead and have you on the show. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that set up, and I've got room for 3 people. I will be happily unlock that. And if you want to jump on, let me know you're on in the comments. We will go ahead and do that. While I say hi to everybody, all of our patrons in the comments as well. And I do see we've got one on board. Rick is here, it looks like. Rick, if you want to jump in, just send me a message, and then I'll know to open the doors, and you'll be able to jump on with me, because I am interested in getting other folks' opinions on what's going to happen in this preseason game against the Texans. I believe, here's what I'm looking for. I've talked a little bit about this. I want to see how this – we know we're not going to have our starting running backs out there. We're not going to have our starting quarterback out there. So with that said, how are these backup quarterbacks? We need a backup quarterback. We don't necessarily have one just yet. We're looking at Tim Boyle. We're looking at Deshaun Kaiser, who, has had his ups and downs, and I would say mostly down so far. Doesn't look like he's necessarily going to be able to get this team a few wins if Aaron Rodgers goes down during the season. Tim Boyle, on the other hand, had a great preseason last year, but then spent a little time on the sidelines, which was unfortunate because he missed out on a lot of the opportunity for a bunch of reps that he could have used as a second-year player on the team, and not getting any action last year. So backup quarterback position is where I'm going to focus, one of the places I'm going to focus, because, we know what we've got in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, we don't necessarily know what we have in the offense as a whole as run by Aaron Rodgers just yet. It may take a little tweaking. It may take a little time. Rodgers talked about the 2-minute drill not being installed yet. Welcome, Norman is here. And if you're one of my patrons and you want to jump on, just message me in the comments. Say, hey, I'd like to chat, and we will get you on the windows for that. And I do believe we are going on Facebook as well. So let me check YouTube real quick. This is the first time I've been able to simulcast. We're still kind of working out a few of the kinks. But for our patrons, we are glad for you. And you can thank our patrons as well, because they are the ones that are sponsoring this particular show. And also, if you're a patron, you will get the recorded MP3 version and the recorded video version of the show. So with that said, other things that we're looking for, I want to see this offensive line start to come together. I'm assuming we're still going to be a David Bakhtiari, Taylor, Lindsley, Billy Turner, and Bulaga-led offensive line. However, this is a new system. This is an outside zone, fairly exclusive system. There's going to be a lot more offensive linemen getting to the second level. And it's just a new way of doing things. Now, guys like David Bakhtiari, Brian Bulaga, even probably Corey Lindsley by now, although he might not have been there when we were a zone scheme earlier, this isn't anything new. It's not particularly new. David Bakhtiari spoke on that. He said, we already know how to run these plays. There's new terminology. But to me, there is in the outside zone the bent to have more athletic, longer offensive linemen, especially tackles. And we'll see how that plays out. We're not going to see the starting running backs most likely with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, and that's a concern to me now. Having injuries, and then we brought in yet another running back. And by the way, Duke Johnson, the Texans will have a new running back. He's probably not in town, but Duke Johnson now traded to the Texans for a conditional 4th that could be a 3rd. This is a guy that when I heard it, I was like, man, maybe we should have been making that trade ourselves. So let me see if I can check the comment line on. Let's check in on Facebook and see if we're going strong. And that's all good. But yeah, so we want to see this offensive line come together, and we ended up waiving Jason Spriggs. He's on the waived injured, and this is a guy that didn't turn out. And now we've got an offensive line that is we're going to have to be doing some work on it. And that's just all there is to it. Want to welcome Lee. I see you're here, and message me if you'd like to jump on the show. I can unlock a spot for you and we can talk Packers together. Wouldn't that be nice? Haven't been able to do that for a very long time. Facebook made it a little bit tough. So we're doing it on Get Vocal. So you patrons of mine, this is your spot. This is your slot to take a spot. And we'd be happy to have you on the show. So we're looking at the backup quarterback position today. We're looking at the offensive line in particular today. And then also offensively, I want to see tempo. When we saw this team run, your family night is a practice, training camp practices, even the practices with the Texans. You're not really seeing full tempo goes. And as I mentioned, I think Aaron Rodgers said, the no huddle has not been installed yet. So this offense has some work to do, and I don't think it's running like a well-oiled machine. That's what I want to see tonight. I don't want to wait on that. I don't care what they do or don't have installed. This is game time. Deshaun Kaiser talked about it this week. It's a little bit nice going into an actual preseason game because you can focus on a package of plays that are put together for a particular game rather than having the entire playbook open to you and the coaches can throw pretty much anything. Whatever they decide they want to practice that day is going to come at you. In this case now, they have the package of plays they have installed that they think are going to work for the Texans in particular. And it's a little more focused for them. So I think that's a good thing. But I want to see these package of plays run like a well-oiled machine from preseason game one is what I'm looking for. Now, do we see it? If we don't, I think there's going to be some consternation in Packer Nation. And if you're on Facebook, you can thumbs up if you agree. You can heart me up on that one because we want to see this thing run well from the start. We've got I've called it the spanking machine of a schedule. We've got, the Bears and the Vikings to kick it off. Bears in particular. The Vikings may not be as tough, but I'm certainly not giving up on them yet. Not but 2 years removed from a championship run in the NFC. So, yes, their defense is getting older. Yes, their quarterback situation we like to laugh at because Cousins got all that guaranteed money, and we just want him to be a dumpster fire from start to finish, top to bottom, that whole team. All right, some other news. There's some other notable injuries that came out that you may not have heard of by now. You probably have. I mentioned Duke Johnson goes to the Texans, so we won't see him tonight, presumably. But added to the Texans, Antonio Brown frostbites his feet by not putting on his protective booties in the cryo chamber. If you are a Raiders fan, and part of the reason I mention it is we do play the Raiders this year. This I don't think is a long-term issue, but if you're a Raiders fan, are you not so pissed about that? He didn't protect his extremities in the cryo chamber and got frostbite. Nick Bosa has suffered what has been called a significant ankle injury, so that's interesting. He's got an injury history now. Now, he's with the 49ers. They were expecting a lot out of him even in his first year, and with his injury history now kind of mounting, Nick Bosa, a lot of potential there, but availability is the most important ability. And DK Metcalf, lastly, those of you who follow the draft, followed our discussions of the draft, know that many in Packer Nation were kind of hoping the Green Bay Packers would get DK Metcalf. I was not particularly one of them, although I did see a little bit of concern I did agree with some of the concern with the wide receiver corps because, at that time in particular, before the draft, if Devontae Adams were to go down and Geronimo Allison had been unavailable for much of last season, you could see the wide receiver corps fall apart really fast. Well, now with Matt LaFleur, now that we know the head coach is probably not going to use the wide receivers quite as much, we're going to run the ball a little bit more. Devontae Adams is there. Geronimo Allison is back healthy. We've seen Kumaro continue to perform. We've seen guys like Trevor Davis continue to perform. Well, not continue, but come back from an injury and perform. And then you've got Equinemius St. Brown, MVS, and Jamon Moore. And so I think that we feel a little bit better about the wide receiver situation, but, a lot of people are interested in seeing DK Metcalf play, basically because he's a physical freak of nature. So, all right. So offensively, we talked about what we want to look for. Defensively, I want to see, and I don't know that Pettin is going to do this, but I want Pettin to uncork this beast. I don't want him holding everything close to the vest. I'm assuming he's going to do a little bit of that, but I want to see. I'm watching for Rashawn Gary. That is my number one eye. Darnell Savage, number 2 out there. I didn't say offensively too, but Jay Sternberger offensively, you got to keep an eye out for him. He's going to be getting tons of reps today because Jimmy Graham, you got Mercedes Lewis. These guys are probably going to be on the shelf or play very little. But then defensively, Rashawn Gary, Darnell Savage, Kadar Holman, Ty Summers. These are guys that are going to be so stoked to play tonight, and it's going to be great to watch these guys start to develop. Zach is here. Good to see you. And any of my patrons I'll mention, again, if you want to jump on the show and you are a patron, just message me in the comments line on Get Vocal, and we will get you on for sure. So, all right. Just a few things. Announcement-wise, we are simulcasting to a few free spots, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and I had Instagram for a minute there, but I lost it. So if you are a Facebook follower of mine and you like the show, and you wouldn't mind, you can get the badge with a heart in it by clicking the badge with a heart in it if you're watching on Facebook. And for 99 cents a month, you'll get supporter-only content. We call our patrons and our supporters shareholders here, and I smile every time I mention it, because we're the only team in the league that can do that, is the Green Bay Packers. And we are partnering with you guys to make these shows happen. And it's kind of like the Green Bay Packers in that regard. You have a little piece of ownership in it. And let me see some comments down here. Mark is asking this on Facebook, and I think you're one of my patrons as well. Yes, I am simulcasting these preseason ones, the Game Day live show, because they're all Thursday games. They're also on our patron day, which is Thursday. So I am HD broadcasting it through Patreon through Get Vocal. So if you connect with Get Vocal, you can get on the show on Get Vocal. And more are joining, but you do have to connect it. It's a third-party app. I think I see Mark on now. I don't know if it's the same one. But if you message me in the comment and you say, hey, I'd like to jump on and talk some Packers, then guess what, brother? You're going to get to jump on and talk some Packers. That's what the patrons get. Simulcast, though, we're going to simulcast this one and let everybody kind of chime in and watch. I pay attention a little bit to the comment stream on Facebook. Dano says, happy game day from Manchester, Tennessee. And I'm going to check YouTube as well, because there is supposedly, last time it worked out just fine, and I simulcast to all three. I was trying to add Instagram today, and there's my notification that we're live on YouTube. Let's bring that one up and see if anybody is on as well. So this is a shared out broadcast through a lot of places. If you're watching it for free, please consider signing up for Patreon, becoming a supporter on Facebook. But if you don't and you decide not to do that, you better dang well thank our patrons that are bringing you this show today. They come in, and many of them pay more than just the dollars, the minimum. Many of them pay more than that. And we are thankful for you guys. They are the bread and butter of what we do. So, Packers tonight on defense, Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage out on the field, presumably. I mean, these guys got to play. So they're going to be getting, I would expect, tons of snaps. But I also am interested in, guys like Montravius Adams, who've been getting a lot of pub in this preseason, in training camp. And now the preseason games are upon us. We get to see if he can continue to carry this over, because he's kind of like the offensive version of a Trevor Davis. You don't want to see these guys fall off. What about Reggie Gilbert is another one in that mix. I'm going to be keeping my eye. Do these guys take a step forward? And one thing I noticed, locker room interview of Zadarius Smith, who has been a beast, but I wouldn't expect that he's going to play tonight. But Zadarius Smith was asked about that nice rotation, those guys you got, Preston and Rashawn Gary, and he said, hey, don't forget Reggie. Reggie Gilbert, now, if he comes on, we've been kind of waiting. This is a guy, he did some good things on the field in the regular season last year, but he didn't flash all of that pass rush potential and had a little bit of a struggle. He's not quite as stout at the point of attack in the run game. But if Reggie Gilbert were to come on and Kyler Fackrell has another good year, we add Rashawn Gary, we've got Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith now. We could have one of the deepest, and this is a shock, is it not? If you'd asked me that when the off season began, I was scared to death of what the offensive outside linebacker rotation was going to be, because we kind of knew Nick Perry was out. We kind of figured Clay Matthews was either going to take a pay cut or he was going to be gone. We didn't know what we had. We didn't want to lean on Kyler Fackrell, even though he had a good year, great year, 10.5 sacks. But at this point in the game, the defense should be playing relatively well. Do we get the ball out? This is what we're looking for on defense. Do we get the ball out? In training camp thus far, we've seen a lot more balls knocked out. We've seen interceptions. We've seen tip balls turn into interceptions, i.e. Oren Burks. And that is exactly what we want to see. I want to welcome guest 2941. I don't think that's one of my patrons, but Mark is here as well. Zach is here. Lee is here. I don't have my patron list in front of me, but that's okay. If you are a patron and you want to jump on the show, just let me know. I can unlock a box. Let's try it once right here. I'm just going to unlock it. Just like that. So that's what happens, and then you can jump on if you wish. But that's for patrons only. Membership has its privileges, and we call all you guys shareholders, but there are levels to some extent, and there are some here watching right now. And again, if you're not supporting the show, you need to thank these people, but because we call them officers and gentlemen or gentlewomen. And they're supporters on Facebook, and they support me on Patreon as well. And I am so thankful for the support that we've got. Guys, quick announcement. This is a good one. You're going to want to hear this one. I'm getting close to 1,000 videos. Actually, I'm probably well over 1,000 videos. But my Facebook live videos are at 891. This will be 892. When I get to 1,000 videos, 1,000 supporters on Facebook, I am giving away $1,000 in Packer Pro Shop gift cards. So become a supporter today. If you're a patron, you get 2 entries for being a patron. If you're a supporter, you get 1. If you're an officer and a gentleman, then you get 3 entries into that gift card giveaway. And it'll be a pretty small pool. And it's only going to be 1,000 people. And so 3 entries gives you pretty decent odds, I think. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun because we're going to give away more than 1 card. We're going to give away probably a 3 or a 500, and then we'll have several other $100 ones that we give away as well. So looking forward to that. I think we're going to hit that this year. I would love to see it sooner rather than later. So become a supporter today. That's the Facebook support/shareholders. All right. So now, we get to see Packer football. We're all excited about that. We get to see this new LaFleur-led offense start to take shape. Super excited about that. I am, however, after the last few training camp dual practices with the Texans, I'm a little bit concerned too. I want to see this team come together, but I still got to pump my brakes because we don't know what we're going to get right out of the gate. We're not going to have Aaron Jones or presumably Jamal Williams either. And these are guys that we need down the road. Kevin King on the defensive side has not been able to stay healthy for 2 years in a row. Comes into training camp, and he's hurt again as well. And he was practicing quite well for all the reports that I saw until he went and pulled his hammy again. And these are nagging injuries that can actually hold you out for, you can go back in 2 weeks. You go back in 2 weeks. If it's too early, you're going to have to be held out another 3. Not a good situation for Kevin King. So there are some things we're concerned about. There's tons to be excited about, all the new draft picks. We had a lot of free agent acquisitions. We haven't talked much about Billy Turner, but Billy Turner is one of the guys that when the fight broke out, he threw down, and he did not back down. He will not back down. He's been out there. Aaron Rodgers has mentioned how great it is to have him, how excited he is to have him protecting him. Billy Turner could be a significant addition. He didn't get as much, wasn't as sexy a free agent acquisition as Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, but he could be just as important, if not more so. This guy goes out, and we saw what happened at the right guard position last year. We were grading at the low 60s at the right guard position as per Pro Football Focus, and we saw what happened. And now we're going to be running the ball more too, which is going to protect Aaron Rodgers a little bit, but good things can happen. We get the running game going, but it starts up front. We've got to get that blocking scheme figured out as well. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to have my eye on the offensive line right now. I'm pretty excited. I really am pretty excited about that. But, you got to knock on wood with Brian Bulaga at the right side, and then we got rid of Jason Spriggs. So, it's going to be an opportunity perhaps for Alex Light, one of those guys at this point. But I want Brian Bulaga to be my right tackle for this entire season, postseason, and Super Bowl. So we'll be keeping our eye on that. I'm trying, and I will be doing a podcast. I do a Go Deep video blog, and by hook and by crook, I've got to try and turn it into a podcast. That's part of the reason I'm doing this Gameday live show as a simulcast, because I'm trying to I got to kill more birds with a stone than I've been doing lately. So we're going to try and do that. But I will be doing a podcast for our patrons only, and I hope you can look forward to that as well. So it's game day night, guys. We're it's 2:00 almost Eastern time. So 8:00 Eastern time. We've only got about 6 hours to go, and Packer football will return to Lambeau Field, no less. We get to play this one at home. Packers also playing in Canada this year, and Rodgers said he wanted to play in that game. And that's another topic we need to talk about, is how many reps does Aaron Rodgers need in this, and in this preseason, how many will he get? I'm not really sure, to be quite honest. I'd like to think I know, but what I do believe as of right now, and I'm going to check the Facebook comment line as well. So if you're on there, we'll jump on and have the reps for Aaron Rodgers. I think most people are expecting will go back to what is kind of considered the standard in the NFL, where your starters basically are not going to play that preseason opener. They're going to continue to practice. Then you're going to get a little bit of work in that second game. Your dress rehearsal is that third game, and then the fourth game is all for figuring out making personnel decisions. So it's going to be all the scrubs in again. Someone is asking how to explain, if you're an officer and a gentlewoman, and Lee, if you are supporting me on Patreon and you're supporting me on Facebook, we just had to come up with a title for that because it's too dang nice, and it's too dang sweet of y'all. So yes, Lee, you are. And so once again, if you're a Patreon supporter and a Facebook supporter, that's what we call you, just for fun. All right, let's check some comments down here, interact a little bit. And Lee, if you're on my Patreon page, that's where I want to do the interaction for this one. But for right now, since we've got Facebook running as well, I'm going to take a few. We got some Go Pack Goes. Robert is convinced Kevin King is going to be all right. I don't know. I don't know if I sure hope you're right. I just am not sure. I'm not sure about this guy. Now, we had somebody in the comment line last week say he was glass. I don't agree with that necessarily, but he's got a pretty significant track record. It isn't a significant injury if they just get him all right. But remember, this is the same thing as last year. So you start getting these things to recur, and I start to wonder a little bit. I am wondering just a tiny bit about Kevin King. So we shall see. Now, the thing is, and this is the saddest part of it to me, is I think this kid can play. And if you're watching on Facebook, thumbs up if you're here. I think this kid can play. 6 foot. He really fits the parameters. 4.4 speed. He's got the speed. He's hard to throw over. And he's got the speed to recover. And we saw he can catch. He can intercept out of trail technique. I really like Kevin King when he's able to be on the field. I want to see him paired up with Jair Alexander. However, you got Brown and Kadar Holman have been playing well also. And I do have to say this, it hurts to say this, but this year, and it won't be fair, but this year will be a litmus test as to whether the Packers were right to let Joe Witt Jr. go. He's a coach that I liked. I loved his attitude a lot. They decided not to retain him. And the defensive backfield had been an injury-laden a triage for the last several years, so I don't think it's fair. Plus, you brought in guys like Holman. King comes back, presumably at some point. Jair Alexander came in. I don't think it's fair because he had Randall and Rollins, and those were our first and second round picks. And so I don't think it's fair to him, but I do think Packer Nation is going to be watching to some extent to see this defensive backfield as a whole, but the cornerback situation in particular finally get fixed. Now, our safety situation hasn't been any better. But at cornerback, you bring in Tramon Williams and you brought in Devon House, and that didn't really work out a whole lot. You ended up with Tramon Williams playing safety, and you ended up having to get rid of Devon House. So that's it's been a sticking point for us for many, many years now. Now, do we have it fixed? That's the question. And I do think this is where I really want Kevin King to get healthy and stay healthy, because I think he's a big part of that equation. And if you've got guys like Kadar Holman on there, you'd like to see him have a chance to develop and not have to get thrown in the mix right off the bat. But that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, it is going to happen in the preseason, and I have no issue with that. That's where we want him playing. But Kevin King not being healthy, I think, is a bad sign. And listen, we are already up there. I think we're in double digits with guys that are having to sit practices. But I do think, and I hope, that he is going to be fine. Now, in terms of the injury, I think he'll be fine. And but can he stay healthy? That's the big question. And he is a lighter guy. He's long and lean, which is kind of the criticism then on the offensive side of the ball of Geronimo Allison. So, all right. Dano says King shut down Julio Jones with one arm. If he can do that, he will be solid when 80+%. Yeah, well, that's my issue with the injury that he's got, that hammy. He really needs to be 100%, or the risk of re-injury is so high. But I agree with the comment. Yeah, I think this kid's a player. And I think here's the thing. So he's been injured for a couple of years. You tend to just sort of quiet down and try to do your job because you're trying to prove it. You're still trying to prove yourself. Jair Alexander is out here. He's jawing it up. Wait till Kevin King gets going. I can't wait to see these two guys knuckle bumping, bumping bellies, the whole 9 yards. Those two could be an amazing combination of perimeter corners in this league, I think. Heart me up on Facebook if you agree. Comment in the lines if you're a patron, because I want to talk about this. But I do think that could be a fantastic combination. Then you've got chances for, you're only as good as your third corner. Brown might fit into that slot. I think we've had Tramon Williams basically practicing there. He's a great choice for right now, but he's not the future of this team. And if you've got a couple guys that are performing, rep them in that spot, that nickel corner, that slot corner spot. These are opportunities, because Tramon Williams is not going to be around forever. So it's going to be a big night. I will be going live a ton, I know, and I see the hearts are coming, for a perimeter corner combo of Jair Alexander and Kevin King. Then the next discussion would be who's going to be better, because King is faster, but he's not as tall. In fact, he didn't necessarily fit the parameters. He was very borderline in terms of height for the Packers, quote-unquote parameters that they never break, but they do. They keep doing. LB is here. Ron, all right, let's see. They could be, but I think Brown will remain healthy and become a surprise starter. Ron, I'm pretty much with you on that one. That's my concern with Kevin King, is he needs to get healthy. I mean, Brown is breathing down his neck. They love the way he plays. Aaron Rodgers is talking about him. He says, I like to throw a completion over him to shut him up, but it hasn't been easy to do. So he's a guy we're going to have our eye on big time tonight. And the Packers, I just got to say it again, Packer football is back. It is game day. This is Game Day Live. It's been way too long. I'm so happy. Interior D-line is one of those areas where we feel like, unlikely Kenny Clark. I can't imagine they'll play him tonight. They don't need to. It's not been talked about a whole lot in terms of, we feel like that's probably the deepest position group on the defense, if not the entire team. But I've got to say, our trenches look pretty solid right now. And if you are confident enough to release Jason Spriggs, the Packers have to feel good about where they're at offensively in the trenches. And, the cliche, this game is won and lost in the trenches, and I feel so much better than I thought I would. I knew the D-line would be good. We were kind of talking about, maybe you need to bring back Mo Wilkerson. I don't think anybody thinks we need to bring back Mo Wilkerson anymore. He's more worried about, paying his bail or whatever at this point. But, yeah, we're in good shape in the trenches. Dave loves Kenny Clark. I do too. I mean, he is a star. He's a star. He's a top 100 player that isn't getting the recognition. He's the next Devontae Adams, the defensive version on our team. We've got several top 100 players that aren't being mentioned. Aaron Jones is another one of them. And if you're a fantasy player, finally NFL Network is keying in on how good Aaron Jones is. I've been telling people, you better watch him on your fantasy teams. And finally, NFL Network put him on their list and figured out that, yeah, this guy's going to be a steal this year. Because they figured out also that the Packers are going to be running the ball more this year. All right. Jamie is asking, do you see playoffs this year? Wow, it's a great question. It's a tough one. It's early. We haven't seen this team play as a team yet. The factors involved. Guys, we've got to say this. We are up against it a little bit this year. Now, you still got Aaron Rodgers, and look at the team that we've put together. Talent-wise, we've talked about this team on paper should be a very good team. But you're up against a new offense, new coach. They're going to hit bumps. How does he handle when the bumps come along? He himself has said, until diversity comes along, that's when we find out what kind of a team we are. And our schedule is loaded with opportunity for bumps in the road, without a doubt. So, you start out on September 5 against the Bears. We can do whatever we want in the preseason. It doesn't matter. The wins and losses don't matter. But I talked about this last week. I feel like Packer Nation wants to see this team win in the preseason. Even though the score doesn't matter, we want to see this team win a couple of these games. I want that partly because this team needs to be confident in its new system. And if you're consistently getting beat down, you're struggling, even if it's because I know what it's we've got our third string. They're still playing their number 2s and 1s. This is the argument all the time in the preseason is who has more 1s out, who has more 2s and 3s. And that's the excuse for losing. That's the excuse for not performing well. I want to take those excuses off the table. And Leah's saying it right now. Of course we want to win. A win is a win, and we're Packer fans. Even if they don't matter per se, we still want to win. We can't. It's in our blood. It's in the DNA of a Packer fan to want to win. But I do think it's more important where if we lost, I'd be like, oh, no big deal. Today, if we lose and it looks ugly, tomorrow morning, people are going to be going, okay, we've got another preseason game. It's going to be fine. I'm going to be saying it. It's going to be fine. You can't take one preseason game. One preseason game does not a team make. But in terms of the question and in terms of playoffs, we're going to have to get a lot of solid work in the preseason, I believe, if we're going to be a playoff team this year. And by that, and that doesn't necessarily mean we win those games. We can get solid work and other team scores a few more points. If we start moving into the period, maybe second game, and we put out Aaron Rodgers, but you get one super nice, well-run, just machine work of a drive. You pull him off the field. I'm fine with that. Then we lose the game. No big deal. I want to see the starter offense work, and I want to see the seconds and thirds get a ton of work in the preseason so that they can make the right personnel decisions and so that those players, when and if they're called upon, which is going to happen, that they perform at a high level because we're going to need those guys. So a big night for Packer Nation. This offense underway. Pettin's second-year defense with all his new toys. And there was criticism of the Packers draft that we didn't do enough offensively. Worried about the wide receiver group because we had a defense-oriented draft. I, for one, am very heartened by what we did with the wide receiver group and who we've got. Defensive draft, I was for that as well. Now, throwing in a wide receiver would have been nice, perhaps. But again, it's a pretty cramped room. It's a pretty crowded room right now. So we will see what happens with that. All right, guys. Well, it is game day. I'm glad to talk about it, have something to talk about. When I will be going live on Facebook at halftime. I will be potentially doing a post-game simulcast show just like this, okay? So that the beauty of that is then we can go through stats. Now we can talk about plays. Now we can talk about who the performers. We can talk about the standout special teams guys. And then on Patreon, I will be putting together, because you don't get a real close look live. I will be pulling out the all 22, and we will be doing a show called Go Deep that I will also be turning into a podcast for you guys. So hopefully, patrons, you will enjoy that. And that's for patrons only. Everybody else is locked out. All right. So simulcast will be recorded. Patrons will get an MP3 version of it. And I'm going to be doing that right now, guys. I hope to see you at halftime of our matchup with the Texans. And I'm not sure how exciting it's going to be by the time halftime rolls around, but hopefully we have some night I thought was plenty exciting. It was loaded with shot plays. We're not expected to see Aaron Rodgers tonight, so will DeShone Kizer perform? I'd like to see him hit a strike or two. And Wes Hodkiewicz talked about early in training camp, we all heard the story. DeShone Kizer drops back, rolls out, and he's got EQ. EQ's got his man burnt. He's wide open, and he overthrew him. Came back later in practice and threw a 65-yard bomb to that same man, EQ, completed it for what would have been a 70-yard touchdown. I am not giving up on DeShone Kizer yet. We talked about this. We're frustrated. We're not really happy. We don't know what we've got in these guys, and many people are off the bandwagon. I don't know that I'm on the bandwagon. But between DeShone Kizer, Tim Boyle, and Manny, I think that we'll find, and we'll see Manny a lot tonight, presumably as well. I think that we'll see one of these guys now that the competition gets ratcheted up, one of them perform. I got my eyes on Tim Boyle in that just because he was so good in the preseason last year, and many people thought he could have backed up Aaron Rodgers better than DeShone Kizer anyway. But we'll see. It's all coming up tonight, guys. So glad to have you on. Good to see you guys on Facebook, live streaming through Get Vocal on YouTube as well. You YouTubers there. I see Electro Gaming is here. He says, go Pack. Good to see you as well. And I'm looking over your shoulder when I do this because we're simulcasting through Get Vocal with my patron page. Patreon.com/Packer Nation if you want to become a patron today. You can also support me on Facebook for just 99 cents a month. But on Patreon, you can put in $1 if you want to do that. And then you'll get direct access to the Get Vocal account and my Discord account, so you can contact me on game day like this. All right, guys, you have a fantastic Thursday afternoon. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll be rolling into weekend and have Packer football to talk about. Things are going well. That late summer sun is warming the trees, and it's a beautiful day. I believe it's a beautiful day at Lambeau. It's a beautiful day here, and it's game day for Packer Nation. So you guys have a great one. We'll talk to you again soon. Go Pack.